Say you're a steward, or a chairman, or committeeman's what you call them in some... And one morning, a fellow in your section stops you and he says...
I did. Good luck. File a grievance, eh?
That's not a grievance. Eating lunch this day, and another fella comes up and starts in...
Listen, seems to me I read where we're supposed to get a bonus. Up to now, I've seen nothing. File a grievance.
Well, there's nothing to file. It just seems to him he read it. Fellow's really got a beef.
I'm blown. He's wearing chicken. You'd walk off, too. Me, I've had the court.
That's not the way you settle a grievance, as you will see. This is the cab that the trouble was all about, the grievance. At least it will be in just a few minutes. Actually, the trouble didn't happen here. It happened the next floor up in truck trim and hardware. But we'll be following it, so you'll see. This section here they call the merry-go-round. They figure a cab moves off every 2 minutes and so many seconds, around that. The whole plant itself is too big to show you, but it covers acres and acres of land, and thousands of men work here, and the thing they turn out is cars and trucks. The wages these men earn, the hours they work, the conditions they work under are matters agreed on in advance between their union and the company and set down in black and white in the contract. And as far as the rights of each man are concerned, one of the most important sections in any contract is the procedure you follow for handling grievances. And whether you're building cars or whatever it is, in most plants the grievance procedure is pretty well the same. Well, that's it for the merry-go-round. She'll keep moving right along now, get smoothed down, get doors put on, get ready for the prime, and then the paint job. See them in a row like that, it's hard to tell which is which, but that's our cab there, the last one. And this is the section where it happened. This is where we'll mainly be, around here. The cab that the trouble was about started moving to the paint line shortly before 3. As far as Pete Carlin was concerned, it was just another cab. Carlin's the steward for the section. Man's got a grievance. Carlin's the union official, sets the procedure in motion. That's why, next to Jack Pickard himself, he was the first to hear about the trouble. At 3 o'clock, Carlin went over to the line supervisor and told him he was off to check with Wallace, the general foreman, on a couple of grievances he'd left with him earlier. And that would be just about the time the wet cab moved into the dryer, about 3. And with the heat in there, you might say it all began. A legitimate grievance is any violation of the contract or of established practices in the plant. Mainly, it'll be about wages, discharge, discipline, working conditions, things like that. The grievances Carlin was off seeing about were fairly typical. Claims for overtime. On these, there'd been a slip-up, and Wallace had now straightened them out. That's the way grievances usually go. Usually they're settled at the first or second step. 3:35, Carlin headed back. 3:35, the trouble happened. As soon as they started to swing the cab over, Pickard asked where they thought they were going with that thing. It had just come out of the dryer. He'd seen it, not 5 minutes. What was wrong with the other cabs out ahead of it? The one's cooled off by now. Nothing was wrong, they said, but their orders were to bring this one ahead. Well, Pickard said they could move it ahead all they wanted. He was waiting till it cooled off more. Sam Morley joined Pickard's side. They could take the cab back and bring a cool one on. Nobody has to work a hot cab. Finally, Douglas heard Pickard say, okay, leave it, but he wasn't touching it, so they better get that straight. Sam Morley said, good and straight. Then Douglas arrived. Pickard told him the same thing, said he'd work on it when it was cool, but he was not working on it now. Douglas said, come on, it's just as cool as any of the others. Let's go, Pickard. That's when Pickard figured this must be a joke. Douglas said, look, I'm not arguing with you. Get moving. Come on, he said, let's get going now. Then Pickard said, he better get this. He's not working on it. He's got burned on those things before. And then Douglas had had enough. He said, okay, pick up your things and go on home. Actually, Pickard didn't mind. It was 3:45 now. He'd lose 15 minutes, so what? Then Douglas went over to where Leo Trelinsky was working and told him to step in at Pickard's spot. Next morning, when Pickard came on, he was handed the G-87, and that's when he went looking for Carlin. As a disciplinary action, he was being transferred to another job. The rate there would be 4 cents an hour less than what he was making now. Carlin looked over the G-87. Pickard told him, said the cab was a special order. They'd moved it ahead of the others, practically straight from the dryer, and he wasn't getting himself burned, that's all. It wasn't a question of refusing to work. Carlin said they could process the grievance under the sections in the contract on discipline and arbitrary transfer. Then he told Pickard to wait where he was. He went over to where he keeps his grievance forms and got one out. First thing Carlin wanted to do was get all the facts down in writing. Who, what, where, when, why, everything. Even a couple of days from now, you start to forget facts, not to speak of, say, a month or two. Pickard had to sign the grievance form. And then Carlin said they'd go and see the foreman a little later. First, he wanted to check a few things. In the meantime, Pickard had better report to his new job. Carlin went first to the plant hospital. The point about grievances is you win them on facts. Handling them is a skill. It takes training and practice. And one thing Carlin wanted to find out was if there was any record of previous burns for Pickard. There was. Then he had a short talk with Douglas. There was at least one important question he wanted to put to him. After that, Carlin asked to have a word with Pickard's replacement, Trelinsky. Trelinsky was frank and straightforward enough, but he didn't have much to add. Then Carlin went over to where Pickard was working, and now they both went to see Wallace the foreman. Seeing Wallace was the first step in the grievance procedure.
You were asked to work on the cab, right?
That's right.
You refused.
I know I did, but if you only got the...
Now, look. I don't want to go over the whole thing again. The point is, you refused to obey a proper order.
The cab was too hot.
I know the cab was hot. Douglas, the line supervisor, told me it was hot. But he also told me it was no hotter than any of the others you work on, day in and day out.
You didn't check to find out.
Who?
Douglas didn't.
How do you know?
I asked him just before we came here.
Well, maybe he didn't. But does he have to touch it to know if a cab's too hot or not?
It helps.
Like I told you, it wasn't as if it come along the regular line. They pushed ahead of the others once it came over the dryer to hurry it along. It had a special on it.
It was still out 10 minutes.
It was still too hot. It was still too hot, and the point is, Douglas didn't check and Pickard did. And another point is, Pickard's been treated for burns once before. And I think it's asking a little bit too much he should get himself burned again, just to prove Douglas was wrong.
All right, leave it with me. I'll check into it again. I'll give you my answer in a couple of days. Oh, Pickard.
Yeah?
When you checked that cab to find out if it was too hot, how come you didn't get burned again?
You don't have to get soaking wet to know it's raining.
They didn't have to wait a couple of days. The next night, when Carlin was leaving for home, Wallace came out of his office and handed him his reply. That's what made Carlin decide to go looking for Pickard.
Dennis, you see Pickard?
It's in the hall.
Hi, fella. Hi. How you getting along? Oh, pretty good. See you for a minute, Pickard? Yeah, what's that? Any news? Yeah, come on.
Well, I heard from Wallace
Yeah?
just now.
What'd he say?
Here, you better read it.
The reason for your being given a written reprimand and being moved to another operation are, to my mind, valid. You refuse to obey instructions of your supervisor, and you refuse to do the job assigned to you. Both these offenses are contrary to plant rules. It is my opinion that the present disciplinary action shall stand. Signed, W. Wallace. Well, what do we do now?
You want to accept that?
It's a raw deal. Douglas was wrong.
That's what I think.
Well, what do we do then?
Well, the next step is I see Jack Lemko, chief steward.
Hey, Pickard, you're supposed to be helping her, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot. Let me know, will you?
Yeah, okay.
That was the end of step 1 of the procedure. Jack Lemko is chief steward for the entire truck zone. And when he went in to see Turner, the superintendent, that was the beginning of step 2.
Well, what about it, Jack?
Read it through?
I've read it and I've looked into it, too.
Well, Adam, frankly, I find the position that Wallace takes impossible to understand. No thanks. I think you'll have to go along with this. Douglas says the cab wasn't too hot to work on. That's all. And another thing. Douglas says, did he test it? Did he even touch it? No. And on the basis of just his word, you transfer Pickard. Well, the action and Wallace's support of it in the first step. As a matter of fact, Adam, the whole position taken so far, well, we simply can't accept it.
You agree that Pickard disobeyed instructions?
I'd like to ask you a question.
All right.
Say you're working for me
All right.
in the casting section.
Okay.
Say I asked you to lift a casting weighing 100 pounds.
Okay.
And you tell me you won't, that you might hurt your back lifting it. And I say you won't hurt your back, lift it. The point I'm making, Adam, is obeying instructions is one thing. But obeying instructions that could possibly, now I'm not saying it would, I'm saying it could possibly hurt your health is something else again. And that's exactly what Douglas asked Pickard to do.
How long was the truck out of the dryers before Pickard got it?
Certainly wasn't 15 minutes.
What's 15 minutes got to do with it?
It's been the accepted amount of time that a man is allowed before he's asked to work in a hot job.
There's no set agreement on that, is there?
In the practice all along, around 15 minutes.
Pretty cool at 15 minutes, isn't it?
It's warm.
It's even pretty cool at 10 minutes. Cool enough to work on it anyway.
I'd have to look into that.
Well, I've been told that.
Well, Pickard's received burns before. He's even had to go to the medical station. You know the old saying, don't you, Adam?
Once burned?
That's right, twice shy.
Come on, let's take a look at the job.
Okay.
Lemko pointed out that in Pickard's kind of operation, the inside of the arm comes in contact with the metal. Turner said he would bear that in mind.
Brother Smith, can you read out Turner?
The end of step 2 of the grievance procedure came with Turner's reply.
Having investigated this grievance as fully as possible, I still find myself in support of the foreman, W. Wallace's actions. Your statement that the job was too hot is insupportable. When you refused to do the job, another man did it with no inconvenience. I couple your refusal to work on the cab with what is reported to be your generally unfavorable and uncooperative attitude towards supervision. And I conclude that this is only another example of it. I see no reason for withdrawing the G87 as you request. Signed, Ed Turner.
What's all this uncooperative attitude stuff?
I don't know what he's talking about.
Douglas, was it?
That's right, he's the line supervisor.
Do you remember? Did you ever have a run-in with him or something?
No, I mean, I do my job.
You ever have an argument?
Well, we might argue. I mean, it wasn't a fight or nothing like that. Like once I said I wasn't working no overtime, he got pretty mad, but I did work.
You ever get any written reprimands for this attitude they're talking about?
Never.
Well, what do we do? Does it go to the next step?
Is this Pickard's grievance here?
Yeah, this is it.
I'll put it in Carlin's file for future reference.
4 days later, in accordance with procedures set forth in the contract, the union appealed in writing to the company industrial relations director, requesting the grievance be now considered at a meeting between that department and the union grievance committee. That was the beginning of step 3. As a rule, such meetings would deal with a number of grievances. This day, they took up 8 in all. The hot job, as it was now being called, was number 5 on the agenda.
Basic point. You've taken the position that Pickard received an order and he refused to obey it, and therefore he should be penalized. That's where we disagree. An order is not a sacred thing. It's nothing that a man in the line should follow blindly. If it's injurious, if it's unreasonable, if it's foolish, then there's something wrong with the order, and not with the man who in all right and justice refused to follow it.
You know Douglas, the line supervisor. Has there been much complaint about him among the men?
The usual.
Colin, you know him very well. Would you say that he would intentionally ask a man to work on a job that was going to harm him?
No, I wouldn't say he'd do that.
Of course.
This cab was being rushed. They pulled it out of the oven, trimmed it, took it out of sequence, then 5 or 6 minutes later, Pickard was asked to work on it.
Remember now that he works in the inside of the cab. He's got to put his arm right between the inside section and the outside section of the door, and that's where the job's the hottest.
We believe it was out of the oven probably more than 10 minutes, rather than the 5 or 6 minutes mentioned by Colin. And I must accept Turner's comment regarding the attitude of Pickard, which I believe might be the answer to the whole thing.
That's sure new in this attitude deal.
What do you mean?
Suddenly this flap Turner gets into over Pickard's attitude. I cover your refusal to work on the cab with what is reported to be your generally unfavorable, non-cooperative attitude towards supervision. You had trouble with Pickard before?
Yes, there's been trouble.
You reprimand him?
Been spoken to.
Several times.
Several times.
How come there's no written record?
What?
No written record.
He's been spoken to.
I think that's just a lot of dust in the eye, this stuff about his attitude. It's practice that a man gets a written warning if he's uncooperative. Turner sits there and says he's been spoken to lots of times. Yet there hasn't been one official reprimand, not one. If he's so uncooperative, why wasn't he given official reprimands in the past?
Well, I think that once Pickard refused to work on the job, and another employee stepped right up and did the work without getting burned and without any complaints, is some indication of 1, Pickard's attitude by contrast, and 2, of how hot the job really was.
Well, we disagree that he stepped right up. It's probably 3 or 4 minutes before he came over.
Did you check?
We will.
So will we. In the meantime, there's something we did check. This record of the burns that Pickard got treated for at the plant hospital.
Don't tell us you're questioning that.
No, we're not questioning it. He got treated for burns, all right. Only trouble is you obviously forgot to check the dates. If you had checked the dates, you'd have found that the burns he got treated for were received a couple of years ago when he was working on body welding, and at least 2 months before he was transferred to the cab line. All right. To the United Auto Workers, Chairman, Grievance Committee, gentlemen, in the absence of any concrete evidence that Grievance burned himself on any previous occasion, management is of the opinion that the G87 was justified.
Consequently, the penalty imposed on R. Pickard by his line supervisor and subsequently upheld by Mr. Wallace, the foreman, and by Mr. Turner, the superintendent, will stand, and the G87 will not be withdrawn. Yours truly. That's it. I'm afraid we're wrong when we argue the point about Pickard's treatment for burns. We just didn't check it close enough, that's all. But we aren't wrong We say that Pickard's gotten burned on his present job more than once. And we aren't wrong when we maintain that Pickard had worked in that hot job and he got burned again. I think we got a good case here. I'd like to recommend, brothers and sisters, that we submit it to arbitration.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Against? Carried.
Three days later, the union advised the company by letter that the Pickard case was being submitted to arbitration. And so the grievance entered its fourth and final step. Some contracts provide for an arbitration board. Others, as in this instance, for the single arbitrator. How he's chosen is again a matter set out in the contract, but both parties must agree in the choice. Accordingly, the union submitted the names of 5 men, any of whom it would be willing to have act as an arbitrator. And the company presented its list of acceptable candidates. Suggested candidates are professional men as a rule, judges, lawyers, people with whom both parties have had considerable experience in the past. The individual whose name appears on both lists is the one invited to arbitrate. By agreement, the arbitrator's decision is final and binding. The Pickard grievance would be settled by Professor J. Finkelman.
Is that your case? That completes our case. Have you any witnesses?
Yes, sir. We'd like to call Mr. Tolinsky, please.
What is your name?
Leo Trelinsky.
Now, Mr. Tolinsky, you are what is known as a group leader, I believe.
That's right.
Now, on the day in question, Mr. Douglas asked you to take over Mr. Pickard's position on the line, did he not?
He came over, told me, you go take a job on the first cab.
And did you go over immediately?
Sure, I go right away.
You went immediately?
Right away.
Now, where were you exactly when Mr. Douglas spoke to you?
I been end of the line, do my final check.
You were at the end of the line.
That's right.
Now, how far would you say that was from Mr. Pickard's position?
Not be far, maybe 100 yards.
100 yards?
Around.
Did you walk over?
Sure, I walk over.
And how long do you think it took you to walk that distance?
Oh, not be long.
Well, can we be more specific, Mr. Tolinsky? Would it take 5 minutes, 1 minute, half a minute?
Oh, about half a minute.
Half a minute. That's fine, thank you.
Have you any questions?
Mr. Trelinsky, when you walked over to where Pickard was, did you walk at a normal pace? Or, I mean, did you go at an average rate of speed?
Oh, yeah, I just walk.
At an average rate of speed?
All right.
Did you know, Mr. Trelinsky, that the world's record for running 100 yards is just 9 seconds?
Maybe, yes.
And would you think that a trained athlete running the 100 yards at top speed would only be going 2 or 3 times the speed of your walk? I suggest to you that it take you more than a minute to go that 100 yards.
Could be a minute, maybe more, I'm not sure.
You're not so sure. Now then, when Douglas came up to you, did he come running up to you, or did he just walk up to you?
He just walked.
He just walked. Now then, let's assume that Douglas knew exactly where you could be found. It would likely take him as long to get from where Pickard was working over to where you were working as it would take you to get from where you were working over to where Pickard's job was.
Yes, maybe.
That would make at least 2 minutes, maybe more. And then he had to tell you what he wanted. That would take more time. Meanwhile, this cab is getting cooler. Just one other thing. You just stated that when Douglas moved you, you went immediately.
Right away.
Right away. What were you doing when Douglas came up to you?
I make it adjustment for my door.
You're making adjustments for the door. Were you using tools?
Oh, yes.
And did you just drop the tools and then go right over?
Oh, no, I put them back on rack, then I go over.
Put them on the rack. Is the rack very far?
No, not too far.
Thank you, Mr. Tolinsky.
That'll be all. Have you any further witnesses? Well, now, gentlemen, before you sum up, I'd like to say that I think both parties have tried their best to give me an honest and accurate picture of what actually occurred. But there are 2 points that haven't been covered, and I don't think the answer lies in this room. In the first place, I'd like to know how long it takes for a cab to cool off after it comes out of the oven. Does it take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes? And in the second place, I would like to know how long it was when this particular cab came out of the oven before Pickard was asked to work on it. Now, can you get me that information?
Well, Mr. Arbitrator, may I make a suggestion?
Go ahead.
Our lab has equipment for testing heat in metals. Now, if the union agrees, we could have several cabs tested, perhaps at 1-minute intervals, and you could have the findings.
Could that be done this afternoon?
Oh, yes, certainly.
Are you agreeable? Yeah. All right, after you sum up, I'd like to go out to the plant and take a look at the cabs. Is that okay?
Certainly.
I'll check the lab equipment in about, say, half an hour.
Fine. We'll meet out in the plant in half an hour. And can you get me a stopwatch, please, Mr. Stapleton? Go ahead with your summing up.
In the plant, at the arbitrator's request, Pickard explained the normal operation of the job he was required to do. A lab technician had arrived to prepare temperature reports on the heat of the door, taken at 1-minute intervals as proposed. The arbitrator then asked to have pointed out the exact direction the cab took from the dryer to the hoist. And the plan now was to time, along this course and through each step, 3 test cabs from the start point at the dryer to Pickard's position on the line. The report on the rate of cooling and the estimate of the time it might have taken for the cab to reach the grievant, along with the evidence brought out at the hearing, were the factors the arbitrator would now weigh in reaching his decision. There was nothing especially dramatic about Pickard's case, and how it finally went isn't really important. What is important is that a man had a grievance and it was heard. And while it was going forward from one step to the next, the cab the trouble was about rolled off, and maybe 1,000 others since that day. A grievance, the hot job, anything, it isn't a matter of somebody winning and somebody losing. The point is a settlement is reached at the first step, maybe at the 4th, like Pickard's. When the arbitrator's decision came, that was the end of the 4th and final step. And while it isn't important that the general things we're saying, still about the decision, the arbitrator ruled that if the inner part of the arm comes in contact with the metal, a cab should be out of the dryer 11 minutes. For normal work, a cab was cool enough at 10 minutes. There was sufficient reason to believe that the cab grievant refused to work on reached him from the dryers at 8 minutes. So the decision went in favor of Pickard, and he's back on the old job again. It was ironic in a way that the same cab should come along this day. Pickard lives a mile or so out of town. Still, he'd have no way of knowing this was the hot job. Only thing he could figure, though, if there was any kind of justice, she'd stop. And yet, in a situation like that, there's not a thing you can do about it. It's not a grievance. You ought to know that by now.